I can tell you a million stories where like a couple came to us and then they invested in their marriage and boom, something really cool happened in their life after that. And again, I'm not saying if you invest in your marriage or if you believe anything I'm saying that all of a sudden you're going to get, a Lambo in the mail. But I can tell you that if you're the type of person that has a culture of investing in the right things and values that dictate you investing in the right things that matter the most, that ripple effect, even as Matt, you mentioned earlier, that ripple effect is going to bring back great things to you. I believe that's God. Okay. But I also believe there's some laws of nature. Okay. Like if you're generally a good human being and you put a lot of good deeds, words, actions, thoughts into the world, it's inevitable, even just statistically, whether you believe in The Secret, or not, another thing you can Google. I just statistically believe what you put out will eventually make it back around to you.
Craft Your Life is a radio show for the tenacious, the bold, and those who refuse to settle for mediocrity. We bring together visionaries, game changers, and relentless go-getters who are crafting their lives, businesses, and relations in pursuit of excellence. If you are ready to shatter limits, embrace the amazing, and live life on your own terms, this show is for you. Each episode delivers actionable insights, inspiring stories, and unfiltered conversations that will ignite your drive to win a life worth dying for. Tune in and get ready to live viciously. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Craft Your Life radio show. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I have the pleasure of bringing Austin Holt into the studio. He is founder of the Conscious Christian Marriage, along with his wife, Rachel. Best-selling authors, speakers, coaches. These guys teach high-impact, growth-minded couples to level up their marriages through their unique faith psychology approach. And man, I'm really excited for this convo.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. This has been a long time coming.
Yeah, Matt, man, I've gotten to, even though I haven't known you a crazy amount of time, we have shared some incredible moments together.
Yes.
At retreats, and I have had the unique pleasure of seeing into your heart in a way that probably a lot of your listeners may not even know. But I've watched you love your wife in really powerful ways. I've watched you love your peers in really powerful ways. I've watched you walk really authentically. And anyone can have a podcast, but you've earned the voice because you have authority, because you really are that like heart-led awesome guy. And so I just want all the listeners to know, like, I've been in the flesh with this man, and I've watched him do real work, heart work, soul work. I've watched him love and honor and respect his wife and others. And so I can just vouch that this man is the real deal. So I'm actually really honored to get to be on this show with you today.
I appreciate that, man. And I feel that, and that's part of the years of work and internal work, right? And, what I love about what you just shared in the real way, like your ability to create that space and hold the container, to be able to see that. And I love how both you and Rachel communicate. And I've learned a ton from you guys already. Both Annie and I have. Your presence is real, and just the way that you show up, man, is pretty unique. And so I appreciate that. And I'm really curious, I kick these off because I love going into the depths and understanding where somebody grew up. So where did Austin grow up?
So I grew up, and thank you for your kind words.
Yes.
Hold on. That's number one. Mark, you can leave that one. You can clap. All right, we see it. Okay. All right. So, so first of all, I appreciate your kind words, Matt. Thank you, man. It was an honor to build that container with you and Annie, man. And you guys you guys are radiant with love. It's super cool, man. It's anyone who would be ever lucky enough to be in a room with you guys. Do it, people. Do it. Whether it's for your garage door or for your next, life coaching extraordinaire event, get with Matt. Get him in person. But, man, so I grew up in the Kansas City area, suburb outside of Kansas City called Lee's Summit, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And I've lived within 20 miles of where I grew up my entire life. So,
what was childhood like for you?
Childhood was Really great, honestly, and in the work that we're in, so much of what we teach really goes back to developmental years, the building of the default neural network and the heart and the soul and all those things. And so, I could definitely tell you where difficulties were that I had internalized and worked through as an adult, but had really great loving parents, two really great loving sisters, and I grew up in church. I grew up being wild. Grew up, music was one of the most important things to me, hunting, fishing, shooting, being outside a lot. I think my mom preferred me outside.
Yeah.
Not because she didn't love me, but because she knew it was good for me. And I was just crazy, man. I grew up kind of crazy and just a young, healthy boy, honestly. And so a lot of fun, a lot of kickball in the cul-de-sac till the lights, turned on, and just a good old American childhood. I think maybe the last generation that, really had that just outside till the dinner bell rang,
Yeah.
But great childhood, two sisters, great parents, was busy, always up to something.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Give me a little summary. So, I can envision young Austin running around, wild and free and cul-de-sacs and small town. Give us a little summary of how this transpires into, your understanding of psychology and coaching. Was there formal education in there? Is this School of Hard Knocks?
It's a great question, man. It's somewhere in the middle. So I was always an entrepreneur, and thankfully my parents, anytime I ever asked for anything beyond really my needs, and we were definitely a blessed family. Like, my parents definitely, provided a lot of good things for us. And one of the best things they provided for me was 3 words, and it was get a job. And, so from a young age, I'd be like, hey, I want an Xbox. And my parents' response would be, get a job. I want a car, get a job. Well, when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, the jobs are mowing yards, detailing cars, the typical stuff, right? So got into entrepreneurship really early, got into business ownership really early. When I was 18, I was the youngest licensed real estate agent in America. It was kind of a cool, funny thing. I beat Rush Limbaugh by a couple of weeks, so I thought that was kind of funny. But so I was real heavy in real estate, became a broker real young. I was the youngest broker in America for a while. And I created a lot of success in real estate. Well, a lot of my peers were coming to me like, hey, how did you create this business? Like, how are you doing this type of work that other people twice your age are doing? Like, can you teach me? And so naturally, like, I started coaching the people around me. Okay, well, you need a business. You need a business plan. And granted, I'm like 22, 23 when I really started getting into coaching. And, so I just invented these coaching courses. And before coaching was a super big thing, I feel like this was back in, 2011, 10, 11, 12, like when maybe coaching was really starting to get big. And so I'd come up with these courses and with videos and all these things, because I just wanted to help the people around me create success in their life, and I had this kind of light bulb moment where I realized I enjoyed helping other people create success more than I really enjoyed creating my own. And then the next light bulb went off, which was like, I think I could create my own success based on helping other people create their own success. And so I essentially stopped practicing real heavy in commercial real estate and the other businesses we had, and I went into full-time coaching. Well, as I got into full-time coaching, I immediately began to be presented with challenges that I didn't necessarily even know how to solve for people. But, coaching and mentoring are two very different things. Mentoring means I've walked the path. I can tell you which tree root you're going to trip on because I've been on that path up the mountain,
Yeah.
Coaching is its own skill set, right? And so I decided to go get training in coaching. And so I read this book. It's called The Big Leap by Dr. Gay Hendricks. One of the most incredible books I've ever read, life-changing book for sure. And that book led to my wife and I going to OI, California for 2 years, back and forth to be mentored and trained by Gay and his wife, Katie. And that was really the first big experience that we had together as a couple that was really in transformational coaching work. I also went and traveled different parts of the country just with different experts in, again, transformational coaching, transformational psychology. And so, it's not that we're self-taught. I don't know if anyone's really super self-taught. No one's really an island, right?
Right.
And so, but we traveled around. Basically, one of my best hacks in the world is if I want to become great at something, I'll find a handful of people that are already the best, and I'll do anything I can to get in their space and osmose. I want to take their 30 years, their 30 years, their 30 years, their 30 years, and bring it down. And so, So, I went to college for like a year. College didn't super work for me, or I didn't work for college, one of the two. And I was already working full time. I was already in real estate full time. I was running this big youth group at the time. And so college just didn't quite work. But we have a lot of education. When I was growing up, I didn't love formal education, but I love learning. I love learning. I have a deep passion for learning. Like I've met several people that coach me. I'm always reading, always studying, always in a course, So
I love this, man. I love the, I'm trying to think of the words to define it because, everybody's journeys are so different. And I love that you are in your early 20s and you're already being called up into the coaching space. Like naturally.
It was natural.
It's pretty special. And then being who you are, you're like, oh, I'm going to go even further and get coached into the coaching space. And hunt for that mastery.
Yeah, it was, it was fun, when it's kind of like how we got into the marriage space. We owned a big wedding photography company actually at the time. And there was a business my wife had started before we had even ever met. And so, of course, we get together. I'm like coaching her, and we turn this thing into a super well-oiled machine. And like I can run that business in like 5 hours a week. And she's doing most of the shooting. But all these couples that we would shoot their weddings were coming to us for marriage advice. And it just kind of felt like this natural calling of like, okay, before we even offer it, these people are like, hey, like, I see your marriage. I see the love you have for each other. How do you do that? And how can you help us? And so we're kind of like, okay, like maybe this is a calling, and of course I was mainly already coaching. I'd coached full time for many years before that. And it just kind of made sense. And so, and I love when things, this is a great business coaching, thought too, because we do a lot of business consulting as well. But it's like, where do you put your hamburger stand? You put it in front of a starving crowd, right? Like if people are already asking you for it, that's a good sign that you should say yes. It's probably a calling. So for anyone who's listening, if you've got people coming to you, for something, it's probably a calling.
Mm-hmm.
If they see it in you, if it's a natural expression of who you are, people are going to see it, and they're going to probably already start to call you to it before maybe you even know. That's I think that's why one reason why it's been so special to us is because it's not like one day I woke up, like I was trying to build a prestigious career in commercial real estate.
Right.
I was like 22 at the time. I was super young, and I was doing stuff probably way beyond my skis. And that was my plan. Like my plan was to stick with that and become, the biggest commercial broker in the Midwest. But I was just getting all these people that were like, how are you doing this? Like, teach me. And then I realized like, that's actually what I feel like I was put on this earth to do. My name actually, Austin, comes from Augustine. And in Latin, it means to add to or increase in the lives of others. And it was just like, somehow my parents knew that, maybe it was God that, instructed my parents some way to name me that. But that's when I realized like, I liked commercial real estate. It required sales skills, people skills, business skills. Like that was cool, but it didn't give me the satisfaction of watching light bulbs go off for people. It didn't quite give me the satisfaction of getting a text message from someone saying, oh my gosh, we just 10x'd our business or 5x'd it or whatever. And like, that's what really brought something alive in me.
Yeah.
And then of course we translated all that desire into the marriage world, which I'm even way more passionate about than the business world, because when we can help people transform their marriage, it's changing their kids, it's changing their business, it's changing their family relationships, their friendships, their neighbors, their clients, their employees. Marriage, if you're married, your marriage is the nexus of all things in your life. So anyways, I know I kind of went all over the place there, but
no, it's
more
it's
intel.
Awesome. It brings up a couple of questions, but yeah, you're right, man. you're able to create a set of ripples that continue beyond what you could ever really imagine. Like,
Yeah.
It goes generations deep for sure. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, because I'm picking up nuance, and in these conversations, what I love is getting into people's stories, but then also making connections and extracting like moments of craft. Like, how do we intentionally craft a marriage, craft a business, craft a life, and what are some of the nuances there? When I'm hearing you talk, Austin, I'm curious. Like, you're driven to make improvements. You're taking your wife's photography and just making it a well-tuned machine. Like, and then you also have this knack for seeing or being open to opportunity, to callings. And I would imagine, knowing a little bit about you, some of this is coming from just your base in faith and your relationship with God. Was some of this also modeled either by your parents? Did you have mentors as you were growing up that kind of gave you some of the nuts and bolts pieces of like how to organize and structure things? Or did you figure that out as you're just being allowed to be open and free through childhood?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of all that. Growing up, my mom was actually very entrepreneurial, especially when I was in her womb. Which we could open up a whole nother conversation about multi-generational information being coded in through DNA and what it's like to be in a part of your mother's nervous system for 9 months.
This is why I love bowling.
Why you love what?
Bowling.
Bowling?
Yeah, my mom bowled when she was carrying me, and I can walk into a bowling alley and just be like,
well, that's amazing. And here's something that'll blow everyone's minds. When your mom, like when Matt's mom was 6 months in utero in Matt's grandma, Matt as an embryo, as an egg, was there, a part of that. And so things your grandma experienced in her nervous system, you were inside her when her nervous system was experiencing anything.
That's wild.
So think about that. And then of course the 9 months that your mom carried you, what she was experiencing, her nervous system was directly tied into yours. And so, my mom, when I think during and before she carried me, she actually owned a small chain of music stores, like music instructional, piano lessons, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think mainly piano lessons. And so all growing up, once my mom closed those, she was always teaching music lessons out of the home. So like we always had a house that had like 8 keyboards in it. And like most nights of the week, people would be coming over and, doing piano lessons. I'm just kind of wandering around the house doing who knows what till my dad gets home from work. And while my mom teaches piano lessons, and it was cool because it was like, even just seeing like, oh, thanks for the check. Thanks for bringing your check. Thanks for bringing your payment. It's like, I think a lot of that got really coded into my brain of like, my mom's doing something in her house on her own terms, exactly the way she wants, and she's getting paid for it. So I think that definitely puts seeds in my mind. I definitely know that my parents telling me, get a job. That was like literally one time I preached this sermon at this church one time, and it was on work. And so I remember like half the premise of it was on this like get a job premise, like not like you would think, but like doing the work in life, and realizing how much more valuable things are to us when they cost us something, cost us time, cost us energy, cost us other opportunity. Like that's how we know that it mattered, which is a huge sales piece as well that we could get into. But so I had other good mentors though. I mean, people that I went to church with, some of my neighbors, some of my earliest businesses that I had, one was teaching guitar lessons. And I taught guitar lessons to just some absolutely amazing kids. And I met some really incredible businessmen through those relationships, like men that big executives or own big companies, or like I had a student that it was actually her dad that got me into real estate when I was 18 years old. It's kind of cool. I had another student that their dad owned 100+ restaurant franchises. I think to this day he's got almost 200, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
That just super inspired me. And he was like the most humble dude, which I loved. I love really successful, really humble people. And by humble, I mean having an accurate view of yourself, meaning that doesn't mean that you're like this meek person that doesn't know they're great, like it's more like I have an accurate view of who I am. Like he knows he's an awesome business bad A, but at the same time, every time he came over for me, because I ended up teaching this dad guitar lessons, every time he came over to my parents' house, that's where I taught lessons, his car was probably worth what my parents' house was worth. Okay, just remember that. But he'd come in, before he'd step in the house, he takes his shoes off, sets them on the rug, the most respectful, kind-hearted dude, and no one would know, other than the car, which he was a car guy. So that's cool. I'm a car guy too. I got a cool car. But anyway, so I met a lot of really powerful business leaders that were incredibly humble, kind men. And, well, I kind of burped there. I'm back. Kind men. And that really impacted me.
Yeah.
Because like I got to see like what success looked like while also being a really just honorable person. So, and my parents always encouraged entrepreneurship. I mean, they, again, get a job, right? But they also supported me in that. They drove me, I rented, when I was 15, I rented space at a music studio and I taught guitar lessons. And my parents would drive me to work and take me home from work. I mean, every night of the week. I worked almost full time when I was a freshman in high school, and they supported me in that, and so definitely was supported in entrepreneurship. Definitely had some great mentors, role models. And I grew up in a neighborhood where it was kind of like, your average house was 200,000 and then your average house was maybe 350,000 and then your average house was like $1.5 million, so like I met a lot of people. There were a lot of people in my space that were impressive people.
Yeah.
And so that, and I think what I took away from all that was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it,
Yeah. It's amazing. There's, I was just starting to put this tie together. Like music is really structured.
Mm-hmm.
And learning the mechanics of music, like there's a lot of structure in there, and there's the opportunity, once that structure is learned, to have the art, to have some influence, to bend some notes.
Yeah.
And that's very similar to entrepreneurship. There's some structure in business, and yet there is that space. Once some of the fundamentals are learned, then we can start bending the notes.
Yeah.
Create some really cool things.
That's a great tie. And I'm not sure I've even really thought about how structured and detailed I had to be to become a proficient musician and how that's translated. I mean, there's such a tie there. Once you understand the structure, it's like as I'm teaching one of my daughters, guitar lessons and she's getting all these foundations down and I'm already hearing her kind of monkeying with it, as she's playing.
Mm-hmm.
And so learn the structure. It's like learn the structure that will produce success and then like play in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
Cool.
It is really cool.
Except jazz. There's no rules to jazz. You just do whatever you just do whatever you want. You slap the instrument and jazz comes out.
Yep. Yeah. I love my jazz course for that reason.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's right.
Amazing. Okay, I have a curious question, but then I do want to dive into sales a little bit. But I think one thing that would be really interesting, and potentially is for me as well as listeners, how do we blend in this relationship? So you're a very spiritual man, you're Christian, you have this strong faith. I know that there's some convoluted messaging at times with regards to spirituality and money. And how do they play from your perspective in the real realm of wealth and abundance? And you're talking about meeting these individuals that have this true abundance and wealth and riches, and yet humility to take off shoes and be grounded and kind of potentially remember where they came from, kind of deal. And I would just like for you to speak into that a little bit and give your perspective on it, see if there could be some unwinding that could occur for listeners.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. And we might have to have an episode 2 on this topic. But dude, we might have like 40 episodes from this. But I can just, everyone that's listening. So yeah, so I grew up in the church, but I have a very independently established faith, and I've been a pastor before. I do a lot of, call it pastoring now. But I'll tell you this: when it comes to faith and money, the Christian Bible does not say that the love of money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. We have human trafficking in the world. We have drug trade in the world. We have all sorts of corruption that devalues human life. 99% of that's driven by money. Okay. And so the love of money can be the root of all kinds of evil, but money is not the root of evil. All money is a choice multiplier. That's all money is. So what you do with $1 is the same thing you'll do with $1 million, and how you spend, how a man or woman spends $1 and how they spend $1 million has the same ethical, moral, value-based implications. Okay, and I can prove this because there's a story in the Bible where this woman, this very, very, very poor woman, all she had was 3 mites. And 3 mites, think of that as the equivalent today of like a third of a penny. It's literally nothing. And she tithed this amount of money, but she gave more money than anyone else that was present. These wealthy people that gave, essentially tens of thousands of dollars, but they had millions. Well, all she had were these 3 mites, and she gave the 3 mites, okay? But yet she was seen as the person who was willing to invest or tithe the very most. And what that's telling us is the amount of money does not matter. The actual quantifiable amount of money does not matter, okay? Money is a choice multiplier. That's all it is. Money is something that we're stewarded so that we can then steward. Okay? And so, yes, there has been a lot of shame in the church. And I can really only, I've studied every major world religion. I've coached people of almost every major world religion. Like, I've had lots of these conversations. But I can speak from the perspective most strongly as a Christian. There has been a lot of shame in the church about money, about wealth. That's generally preached from a place of insecurity, period. And I have no judgment for that. I actually just feel sad because most people's beliefs are transcendent. And so if someone's preaching shame about money, it's because someone shamed them for money, or someone felt insecure, so then they told other people that having money is a sin or it's a negative thing. It's not. It's just a choice multiplier. Okay, if you make $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million a year, how you spend your money is the exact same way. It's just at a different scale, And so there's tons of scriptures that I live my life by that are in the Bible that clearly indicate that, big one, Christ came so that you could have life and have it abundantly. Okay, have life abundantly. Okay, and I'm not talking if you believe in God, you get a Ferrari in the mail. But I also look at the book of the book of James. God opposes the proud but gives favor to the humble. Okay, there are so many places in the Bible, so many places in our theology that would suggest that God is not against money. He just cares about what we do with it. Okay, and whether you believe in a God or not, if you believe in being a good human, it would maybe at least behoove you to a small degree to care about how you spend your money. Okay, and no one else is your responsibility. Okay, you're not responsible for others, but I believe we're responsible to others. Okay, so I believe we're responsible to our fellow man, especially those we're in community with. And so I don't believe that you have to sell everything you have and give it to the poor, but you could take the money that you have and create opportunities so that other people could understand how you live your life that's enabled you to create success or abundance. And so the more that I have been faithful, the more I believe God has blessed Rachel and I. There's a great parable in the Bible in the New Testament. And it's called the parable of the talents. And it's a super long story. So if you're really curious, Google it, the parable of the talents.
Yeah.
And how we steward our money I directly believe how God will give us more or less. And I can think of, I can tell you a million stories where a couple came to us and then they invested in their marriage and boom, something really cool happened in their life after that. And again, I'm not saying if you invest in your marriage or if you believe anything I'm saying that all of a sudden you're going to get, a Lambo in the mail. But I can tell you that if you're the type of person that has a culture of investing in the right things and values that dictate you investing in the right things that matter the most, that ripple effect, even as Matt, you mentioned earlier, that ripple effect is going to bring back great things to you. I believe that's God. Okay. But I also believe there's some laws of nature. Okay. Like if you're generally a good human being and you put a lot of good deeds, words, actions, thoughts into the world, it's inevitable, even just statistically, whether you believe in The Secret, or not, another thing you can Google. I just statistically believe what you put out will eventually make it back around to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, for example, I met him at an event through Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolf. We became good friends. We had some intimate, spiritual, epic love moments with each other, okay? Like real deep inner work stuff. Well, it's like, okay, if anyone I know in the Colorado area is like, hey, I need garage doors, I'm going to stop what I'm doing, stop them, go way out of my way to make sure they call Matt, okay? They're like, even if it takes me 20 minutes, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and make sure, like, I got a guy. He's in Colorado. I don't care if he's 5 hours away. You need to call him. And so Matt's a kind guy, a loving guy, a generous guy. He'll look you in the eye. He'll be present with you. To me, that's putting, you could label it whatever you want, good things in the good vibes, bro.
Yeah.
Good things in the world. And that will always come back to you. And so, and I believe there's a big faith component of it. Okay, because my view dictates that God is kind of intermingling in everything that I do and divinely helping me meet people and connect with people. And, you know, when Matt talks about like Rachel and I's ability to hold space and a container for people, like I believe like I can love because I've received God's love, and it enables me to hold space for people that is unique, okay, because I see them the way God sees them, not the way the world sees them. But when it comes back to spirituality and money, if anyone ever tells you that it's, you know, that it's somehow anti-God or anti-faithful or it's a sin or something to be wealthy or want wealth, all you need to do is say, money is a choice multiplier. That's all it is. Because if you have $1,000 and you spend $999 of it on alcohol and $1 on your family, you're just as guilty as the guy, okay, that spent $900,000 on all those things. It's easy to look at the world and say, that guy bought 5 Lamborghinis, but he doesn't, you know, take his wife out on dates. Like, wow, blank. You're just projecting, okay, because he's reminding you of times where you haven't been responsible with the money you have. It's all relative. It all moves in scales. Money is a choice multiplier. Okay, this is why I believe a lot of people won't become super wealthy, because they don't trust themselves with a small amount of money. And if you don't trust yourself with a small amount of money, you're not going to trust yourself with a big amount of money. And so I believe God uses money as a tool to help make us better stewards and to discipline us. And discipline meaning help us be better, faster, smarter in how we handle money.
Yeah.
So I look at it as wealth is an important thing to God, because God uses wealth to make us better people. Because so there's so much.
There's a lot in there, and I love that perspective. Money is a choice multiplier. I mean, I can certainly look out, and I can make up my own assumptions about various levels of wealth that I see people have, and I can make stories about whether they're good or bad or whatever. But what came through me in that conversation that you were just sharing, Austin, is if money is a choice multiplier, there are the folks that either choose to spend money loosely or outside of themselves. Because in order to have those ripples, one of the words that you said in that game was those ripples can come back and one can receive.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can see in my own life in the past, I've gotten way better at this recently, but even if I'm watching humans in general, like there's a lot of folks that are just not good at receiving.
Yeah.
And almost to a point where if there was a windfall or of anything, if the Lambo did come in the mail, there would be a way to sabotage that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we teach a whole model all around that concept called the upper limit problem, and how when I believe God pours into someone to a degree that their nervous system can't withstand the joy of, they'll sabotage it.
Yes.
You know, they'll throw a wrench at even the best things, because it's kind of like tickling. You know, it's like how long can I tickle you before you lose it? Before you, I just can't. That's too much. Stop. It's just like that, you know. And so a lot of people, and there are statistics around this: income caps, happiness caps, lifestyle caps. And I was just having a conversation with my coach yesterday about this, and he said the phrase, and I just forgot it. But there's statistics around where most people will hit a certain income And then they find an equilibrium of generating money, spending money.
Yes.
And they'll never break out of that. And there's not even enough mindset that will shift to that for someone. Sorry. Excuse me. There's not enough, and there's not enough mindset that can shift that for them. It's all on the unconscious. Okay. Because if you fundamentally feel guilty about having abundance, then you'll take it from yourself through subtle ways, through very subtle, sneaky ways.
Yeah.
You know? And so I do believe that everything that we emit from us will generally be reflected back, either through relationships or through opportunities. Again, meeting you, experiencing you, and your kindness and your love for people won't just encourage me to want to build a great relationship with you. I want to see your business grow. You know, like I want to see your wife be happy. I want to see your children be blessed, you know? And it's like, but if you were, you know, a guy that sat in the corner, didn't smile, didn't appreciate, didn't say a word, didn't any of that, well, I probably wouldn't think about you again, you know? And so, but because just like how you get so many referrals from the customers that you at Cooler Garage Doors, you know, you do a great job for people. So all of a sudden the neighbors are coming to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I want to dive into this topic that we flirted with as we were prepping for this conversation around sales being a language of love. And it ties into where we were just at, because in a lot of this, it's first self-love. Like in order for me to be loving of others, like I have to have this relationship with Matt and start there. And that's exactly how I think about even selling a silly garage door, because we know it's more about the garage door. Where do we want to take that convo? Because we had been dancing around that as a topic for this conversation, but sales is a language of love.
Yeah, so this was a concept that was introduced to me by an old coach of mine. His name was Jesse Elder, just another incredible human being. And I spent 2 or 3 days with him in Texas, and back in like 2016. And he really introduced this concept to me, because I used to feel a lot of guilt and shame around selling. I used to feel guilty, you know, because I kind of osmosed this sadness or fear that other people were feeling when they had to spend a certain amount of money to get something. And later I realized, I mean, through his coaching and through, again, I talked to my coach a couple days ago about this. And this is a guy who's he's a 9-figure earner. He's an absolutely incredible, just genius of business. And we literally talk about this. I mean, I feel like at every scale of business, we relearn this lesson. Sales is absolutely a language of love. If you believe in what you do and you believe it's the right thing for people, then if you don't close them, you'll have failed them. You'll have let them down. If they have a real need and you have a real solution and you don't close them, someone else who is not as ethical as you are will, and will generally do a poor job for them. So for example, you, Cooler Garage Door, someone comes to you, they definitely need openers, they definitely need springs, they definitely need rollers, they need everything, right? And, you know, maybe it could be cobbled back together, okay? They need springs, they need safety cables in their springs, but it's going to be, $10,000 to get all that done, okay? 2-car garage, whatever. And you present it to them, and then they're like, "Oh no, we just can't do that, or can't afford it, or whatever." And if you give up at that moment, okay, then the next guy's going to come and offer to do it for $5. He's going to take the deposit. Here's what's going to happen: he's going to take the deposit and never show up again, or he's going to take the deposit and do a really terrible job. He's not going to put the safety cables in on the springs because he told them they didn't need that. He's not going to replace the rollers because they weren't clearly broken, okay. And he's going to patch up the door, so then they're going to be too heavy. It's going to burn out the motors. The door's going to fall and crush one of their kids, or the door's going to get stuck and they can't get to work. And the reason that they probably said no was because the perceived value for the perceived value, they just didn't understand what was at stake.
Yes.
That's your job to help them know that. And it's your job, because here's what happens. This is deeper sales psychology, but when someone needs something, Okay. They need a garage door. They come to you. I need a door. And you say, yeah, it's going to be $10,000. The first thing that comes into their mind is guilt. Because they're going to be like, it's not a necessity. Okay. Because, oh, we'll just park outside. We don't need to use our garages for now. They're going to be like, I should pay off something. I shouldn't spend this money. Especially garage doors is more of a thing for the home, especially if it's something for them personally. I shouldn't spend this money on this. I should spend it over here. It's a lot of money. And then again, they're going to go for the cheaper option, or they're going to opt to not even do it. And if you don't love them, then let them walk away. Okay. Because it's only going to get worse. But if you do love them, you can say, hey, I appreciate you sharing with me that it feels like a lot of money. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Let me recap what you just said. I just want to make sure I hear you. You really want these garage doors because you really want to be able to park your cars inside, and you want to make sure that it's safe, that we make sure these springs are safe, and you want to make sure that you're getting a good return on this investment, because we want to put these rollers on so that way your brand new doors don't warp over time. You really want all that, but money feels like it's a problem. Am I getting that right? Yes, Matt. That's where I'm at. Okay, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And then we move into, I have many layers of scripting from there, but then we move into this place of, a lot of people have felt that way before. Okay, I've had this conversation with many homeowners, and I totally feel you. Okay, they did it anyway. We made it work for them, and to this day, they're so happy they did that. Okay, because they didn't get something cheap. They didn't get something that broke again. They didn't get something that left them stranded for work. They didn't get something that maybe crushed their kid because there's no, the door fell down or a spring popped off and hit someone. And, taking them through a process and then getting to, hey, get creative with me. How can we make this work for you? And that's typically when someone asks about payment plans or financing or something like that. But anyways, when people come to us with something and we know they have a real problem, and if we ethically, morally, and good conscience know that we are the right person for them, if we just let them walk away, the odds of someone else harming them go up through the roof. Okay? They came to us for a reason. They had the need for a reason, and it's our job to make sure we do everything we can to get them to that end, and to know the risks if they don't. If we don't love them, then fine. Let them go. Let them go get screwed over, okay, by the other door guy down the street. Okay, let them get screwed over by what do they call them? Tailgate door guys. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, tailgaters.
Yeah, tailgaters. Let them
Chucks
get taken.
And trucks.
Yes. Let them get taken by the tailgater. But you care enough about them to be like, hey, I know that other option's cheaper. I hear you. I've been there. I know what it's like to maybe think I gotta cut a corner. Here at Kuehlhorn, we're going to do everything we can to make this a win for you. What does that look like for you? Get creative with us. And it's $10,000. You can only afford $5,000. Let's figure out a way to make this work for you. And especially if someone's wanting to buy something that is really for them personally, whether it's coaching, okay, whether it's a vacation, or whether it's counseling, or it's medical bills, like medical services that they need done. Fill in the blank. When someone typically wants something and it feels expensive, they're going to feel so guilty about spending the money that it might keep them from doing something really good for themselves. Okay, and if they don't love themselves very much, they're going to feel so guilty about spending the money they'll talk themselves out of it. Okay, I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm talking about giving someone what they wanted before they were scared by the price, because all price is relative. Okay, a lot of times when I'm doing sales coaching for people, one phrase, script, whatever we use all the time is when someone says, "Oh, that feels really expensive," we always say we thank them for the objection, we recap it, okay, and then I have a whole process from there. And we might say, "I appreciate you sharing that feels really expensive. Would you mind sharing with us, like, what are you basing that on?" "Oh, well, my neighbor said his garage doors were $500, brand new from Home Depot." Mm-hmm. "Oh, okay. That's really helpful insight. How are his garage doors doing?" Well, because for some people, they just have no idea.
Yeah.
So, but I love them enough to not get offended. Okay. So like if someone said that to you, Matt, you could say back to them, "Oh, okay. Well, just so you know, the going rate for 2 doors, 2 openers, rollers, springs, cables is typically about $7,800. I'm just telling you right now, if you call any competent company It's going to be about $7,800. Oh, I didn't know that. I guess my neighbor lied to me and told me it was $500. Okay, that totally makes sense now. Thanks for giving me some clarity. And boom, that might close them right there. But if you get offended, but you got to remember, people only have objections because there's a perceived value, perceived value difference. There's a disparity and they can't make it up yet.
Yeah.
They're usually misinformed or they're feeling guilty about spending money. Okay? If you know that what you have solves a real problem and you know you will treat them fairly. Now, if you're a shyster, don't do any of this. If you're a shyster, just quit. Okay? But if you're a heart-centered, ethical business, and they have a problem, and you have the right solution, and you believe that with every bone in your body, and you know they can't really go on without it, then we do everything that we can to face their objections, not take it personally, not get our feelings hurt. Well, man, Matt, I think you're ripping me off. That's really expensive. Hey, thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate the fact that you didn't just hang up the phone. I know getting these invoices sometimes can bring up some big emotions. Hey, we're here for you. That's love right there. We're here for you. That's love. Let's talk about this together. I know you said that you felt like this estimate is really, really high. Would you mind sharing with us, like, what are you basing that on? Did you get another estimate yesterday? And then more than likely it's baseless. And we know that. They're just like, dang, bummer. It's like, it just is what it is, you know, and that's home ownership. Right? It's home ownership.
Right.
It's like someone should have told us that owning homes could be expensive, But sales is love because you're helping people overcome insecurities. You're helping people with their guilt, okay? You're helping them manage that guilt. And you're not backing down because your feelings got hurt because they got offended by your price. And it's saying, I love you enough to withstand any of that and still be here with you. Yes, I know it's expensive. You've only got $5,000. Okay, maybe we can work with you on financing. We can work with you on some payments. We can work with you on, you've got a gold bar in your closet. I'll trade you for that, whatever, And so when you love someone through sales, you can just hang with them. If you don't love them, then quit easy and let them go get taken advantage of by someone else. Because they're going to hire someone. It might as well be you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I do it. I love this so much, and what I love is there's really two-way streets, and so as I am bringing up new sales techs within Kuehlhorn, part of my job is to help them love themselves enough so that they can go in front of a homeowner and stay there.
Yeah,
right. Part of it's like putting the value packages, making sure they understand the value, the mechanics of value, and how to help bridge that gap. Because I remember early on, and I'm a late bloomer to this whole game, really, of life. I think that I want to be here for a really long time. So I just took my time getting to where I'm at. And I can remember not feeling confident, not feeling that self-love. And that's when I would just skirt out of those convos. Like I wasn't able to hold it, right? And so it's both sides to where, as I'm putting together a company or an offer, and then if I'm transferring that sale to an associate of mine, I've got to make sure that they come up with their own love so that they can really love the person that they're interacting with. Because I think it's two ways.
Yeah, it's selling with love means that you actually care about the person and the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's been times where, you realize that you're not the right solution.
Right.
And so if you do get in front of that homeowner and they're like, hey, here's my situation. Here's how much I can afford to spend on this. I don't have any credit, or I can't, and I'm being presumptuous thinking about who even, Kuehlhorn focuses on helping. But let's just say you do get into a situation and you can actually, loving them would be enough to say, hey, you know what? Based on everything you've shared with me and based on the resources, based on the options, the best course of action for you is to probably wait 6 months, call us back, and then we'll take care of you then. It's the ability to actually also, because again, if they have a problem you can solve and it's the right thing for them, then you have an obligation to do everything you can to overcome objections. Because everyone's sales shield is at a default of no.
Yeah.
Okay. It's always at a default of no. And we want to empower people in their autonomy and their personal agency to say yes. We want them to connect dots, because if they connect the dots, it's true. If I connect it, it's not, right? So we also want to hold it loosely, okay? But we have an obligation to make sure we equip them with every opportunity to say yes, but it's got to be the right thing, okay? None of this works if you're being unethical.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But if you do get to a point where the most loving thing to do is actually walk away from the sale, maybe to refer it to a different company, or that could be what it is. A different company, it could be a different product, it could be X, Y, and Z. But sales as love is listening deeply, prescribing based on intel, not on assumptions, but prescribing based on intel, and then giving them the right solution. And then when they're like, oh man, that's so much money, I can't do that, or it's walking with them through that so they know you're actually on their team, and people feel that. We used to call it the 90-10 rule. 90% of someone's decision to work with you is based on trust. 10% is on how you do it. Okay. I've never asked you this question, Matt, but I guarantee you it's true. I guarantee you it's true that I bet a lot of times when people are hiring Kuehlhorn to come do their doors, they don't know all the nitty-gritty details of exactly how you're going to wrench everything. They probably don't even know what a roller is, okay? But they trust you.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
They trust you, and if you say this is what you actually need, and it would be harmful to you for us to do any less, because it wouldn't protect your investment. So just trust me when I say this is a comprehensive scope that's going to actually solve this problem. I bet you 90% of them saying yes is because they trust you versus, well, what kind of rollers are you putting in? Or, are we doing chain drive or belt drive? I bet it's because they feel your care for them versus the nitty gritty details of the prescription.
Yep. Without a doubt. That's right.
Yeah. And that's cool.
That is cool. That's awesome, man. This conversation is just dripping value. I hope as a listener, you're taking some notes and potentially replay it. I shared with you, Oz, and this one's special, and I want to speak into it. Like show 100. This is the centennial show for this podcast. This thing started as just a networking event kind of tool, and now it's just blossomed into these really authentic, deep conversations around tidbits and intentionality and, exploring this idea of craft and crafting a life. And I was just so glad that you show up as the way you show up, man, because you are crafting a beautiful life, and it's fun to watch and now be alongside you for the journey of it. I know we're just beginning our relationship.
Yeah, man, I agree. And I'm honored to get to be on the episode with you. I have a feeling we'll probably do another one at some point. Hopefully before the next centennial.
Yes, let's make it a go.
But it was fun getting to be here for the 100th episode, and I appreciate you putting in, because your listeners, unless you're in this industry, you don't know the time, energy, and money, and effort, and emotion it takes to run a podcast. My wife and I run one, so we're very familiar with what it takes. So I hope everyone listening to this today knows that how much Matt cares about the listeners, because he's carrying the big effort of intentionality it takes to put this together, to bring every listener here a ton of value. And I just love knowing other human beings that love giving free value to the world. So Matt, it's an honor to be on here, man. And I just appreciate your heart for setting aside a couple hours on a Friday that you could be off selling, but instead you're here giving value to the world. And that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I hear that, man. For listeners, man, how do people get a hold of you? Where are we going to find you guys?
Well, my home address, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
But no, if you go to consciouschristianmarriage.com, you can find us there, consciouschristianmarriage.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and we'd love to connect with you, whether that's something marriage related or any type of other coaching related. But we love connecting with people, man. We love helping move the needle in people's lives, especially in their marriages. And, it's just last thought, I guess, for me here is I love when someone's marriage shifts positively. It's the biggest lever they have. Whether you are a business owner or a sales guy, or you don't own a business or anything like that, But all the greats, even the greatest minds, have all said, your marriage is your strongest point of leverage. And so as you focus and build that relationship, everything else is going to follow suit, So,
oh, man.
Yeah. ConsciousChristianMarriage.com, and would love to hear from you guys.
Bro, and I want to chime on that too, because if you had told me that a few years ago, I would have been like, yeah, you're probably right. Annie and I's journey is really special, and we're about to crest, I think this year is 18, 19, like we're getting close to 20 years, right?
Yes.
Right? It's super special, and there's the whole gamut of experience in that couple of decades. But what you were just speaking to, like that shift, when Annie and I intentionally chose to level up our relationship, we had a really great experience with you and Rachel in that space. And in this group that we run with, like it's a high priority, and it's really real. What's happened in just this last 6 months is surreal. And that connection between her and I has only gotten way better. It's so fun. But that relates into everything, man, from health to business to just how I walk into rooms. It's wild. So I just want to emphasize that. And I want to encourage listeners, like if you've lasted this long in the conversation, it's probably worth reaching out and just seeing some of the offerings that Austin and Rachel have, because they're super special. And so
I appreciate that, man. And without giving away too much of like kind of some stuff we save for, the in-person, but man, just thinking about what we did together in Mexico and in some of the exercises that we did, just watching the two of you and your connection was just like magical. Like I think about that a lot. Rachel and I talk about that a lot. And so you guys are walking the talk of marriage as a priority. And I guess I'll just finish this thought because it's too important, but the reason marriage changes everything, if you're the kind of person that says my marriage comes first and you don't put it first, then that lack of continuity of values and integrity will harm everything. If you're the kind of person that says your marriage comes first, but it actually doesn't, well, then you might be able to actually create a lot of success without focusing on your marriage, because to you, there's no integrity disparity there. But if you're the kind of person that says, because especially if you're going to go create success, you're not proud of success. You're not proud of taking success home if you know you're out of integrity at home. But you're really proud of success when you take it home, when you know you're in integrity. Because if your marriage is solid, bringing home success is powerful. It's like, wow, we're creating all these amazing things together. It's awesome. But let's just say I'm speaking to the dudes here for a second, because I believe that it is a man's ultimate responsibility. I believe in equality in marriage, and I believe at the end of the day, it's the husband's responsibility to lead his wife. That's something I believe with all my heart. Let's just say that I, make X amount of money in one day, and I come home and I'm like, oh, Rachel, guess what? Today I crushed it. I made all this money. She might be like, oh, okay, well, did you bring milk home? It's like, oh, that didn't really land, because she's actually not impressed because I'm not putting our marriage first. So I could go make all the money in the world. I could build all the businesses in the world. But if I'm out of integrity at home, none of that stuff matters. But if I'm in integrity at home, meaning I say my marriage comes first and it actually is first, then Rachel in my marriage becomes my leverage. It becomes my multiplication. Okay, when I know that she's coming first, which for me, it's, my faith in God's first, my marriage is second. They're so close, it's about the same. But it's like when I know that my values are in alignment, I can be 10 times as successful because I'm not scared to bring it home. A lot of people are scared to bring success home because they know it doesn't really actually matter because they're out of integrity at home. So when your marriage is thriving, it unlocks everything. And sometimes you just have to experience it to believe it. So,
yeah. And with that, my friend, we'll close out this recorded part of our conversation and leave a little cliffhanger for the next one.
Yes.
I appreciate you, man. Yes. Yes.
You too, man. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please know that I am incredibly humbled and honored. I can't believe I'm saying this. We have over 2,400 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and we're just growing. It is amazing. And your likes, your subscribes, and your shares have helped us get here. So let's grow this thing together and just know that you are appreciated.